So we're here with Tess Manning, Head of Talent and Community at Timehop. So Tess personally felt connected to this topic of staying in touch and positioning your experience because she has her own great story of how her way back internships led her to her now current role at Timehop. So can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for having me, and Danya. So one of the things that Emily actually just mentioned about displaying your side hustles, your volunteering, and how that's all part of your reputation is actually the beginning of my story. So I was an international relations major at NYU, no particular connection to startups or technology, but since my sophomore year of college, I've been volunteering at an organization where we provide weekly dance classes to children in homeless shelters. So through that, my sophomore year, I actually co-taught with this guy named Chris. And Chris and I, we spent a lot of time together each week, and we really became dependent on each other and really had to step up and make sure we weren't, flaking out, and got to the point where we had this really great relationship and we could count on each other and knew we could trust each other. And so in a way, it was almost like a working relationship, even though it was a volunteer program. So come towards the end of the year, Chris had told me what he did. He's like, investments, finance. I wasn't really sure the scope of everything that he was involved in. And towards the end of the year, I was like, hey, I'm looking for an internship. I'm not sure what to do. I can't really find one. Nonprofits, so competitive. He's like, well, have you thought about startups? And I was like, well, I guess it depends. What are they doing? So he's like, just come with me to this party and come meet some people. Some of them I'm investing in, some I'm thinking about investing in. I was like, okay, sure. So we show up in our dance clothes, we matching red t-shirts. And the minute we stepped in, I was like, whoa, Chris is a big deal. Everyone in that room knew him, was sucking up to him, and I realized that he was a partner in a pretty new investment firm called Thrive Capital. So he, was really wonderful. He vouched for me, introduced me to so many people that night, and I met 3 co-founders who had an education startup, and that's something that I could really connect with. And even though it wasn't, immediately in my line of studies or what I was looking for that summer. So, lesson 1, just take risks, and even if it's something that doesn't directly line with what you have on your profile or what you think you're marketable as, just if somebody is willing to give you the chance, really explore it and see if it's something you might be interested in. So it was, and I really could tell that I was going to like these co-founders. And it was funny, since day one they were like, oh, you're Chris's dance friend. And so that sort of became part of my reputation, but it was something that they remembered. And even, side note, as a recruiter now, I like to see other things on people's portfolios if they're a designer, their side things, not just what they did for an agency. You like to see other things people do because it makes them feel more human and like a real person you want to work with. So that was, something I learned. I was like, oh, I don't need to hide, the things I care about and only come off as professional. So it seems like a no-brainer, but that's a really good tip. So anyway, so I started this internship and was really fortunate. So, long story short, that internship led to my past 2 jobs. So my one right after school and the one I have now. And, a couple of different things played out. The short story is that, I had that summer internship. It turned into full-time, a part-time job throughout the rest of the year, my senior year. And that CEO wrote me a secret recommendation to the CEO of this company, Sailthrough, that I ended up working for almost 3 years. I was interested in it, and he's like, I know him, and he sent a letter. So that's one of those, great things that worked out. But there was 5 months of me interviewing all over the place where I couldn't even get an interview. I flopped interviews, all over the place. But a lot of those opportunities came from things I did throughout that year. So, just for example, another thing Emily mentioned is expanding your networking beyond just the company you're working at is huge. So the company I'm working at now, I met, and they were not my direct internship. So, for instance, we had a partnership with American Express, and I was working on a campaign with them, and I was like, okay, I really want to stay in touch with these people. They're really good people. They're really smart. They're directors at American Express. I don't know if I want to work there necessarily, but, was always being like, hey, do you want to go do a lunch work date instead of just meeting in the office? So there's always sort of little social elements to it too, and I feel like I got to know them really well. So towards that spring, they were like, look, you're probably underqualified for this, but we can get you an interview. We really like the work you've done with us. So I got the interview, didn't get the job, but it was still, it was a little boost in confidence after all the struggles of applying cold places and not getting it. And it really showed that by sticking with those 2, that VP and that director, and making sure I was giving them the best possible experience with our startup, that led to that opportunity. And, likewise, towards the end of the year, I ended up getting the job at Salesforce after a lot of failed interviews. But, aside from that, one of the other really wonderful things that I feel like I was kind of naturally doing, but then like Emily said, you have to, stay on top of, is those longer term relationships. So not the ones where it's like your boss, the CEO of the startup, is going to give you a referral, your first entry level job out of college. The ones like right now, I just accepted a job last fall from 2 co-founders I've known for almost 5 years. And I think about it, and I never had any necessarily, intention of ever working for them. But I was working in a co-working space at this internship my senior year, that summer of the senior year, with a bunch of other startups. And there were some that were really impressive. And they, one of them got acquired. There were some that were really you could tell that these people were going to do well. But I didn't necessarily like the character of those people, for instance. And so it was really easy to be like, oh, these are the ones that are being talked about in TechCrunch. I should network with them. I should spend my time investing with them. And go to their events and try and talk to them all the time. It was actually the people that I thought about, I would like to work with these people one day. Maybe they're not the most successful right now, but and same with your colleagues at your internship right now. Maybe they're not the VPs, maybe they're not the directors, maybe they're only 2 years older than you, but if you can see yourself working for them in 4 or 5 years, those are really good relationships to hang on to. Sounds kind of cheesy. I'm definitely an emotional person. But those are really the things you can see someone who's smart, and it might take them a while, but just hang out with them and keep on with that relationship. So that's what ended up happening with TimeHop. So we shared an office for a year with the 2 co-founders, just the 2 of them at the time. And like Emily said, I was a user from day one. I was a user of every startup that was in our office. Mm-hmm. So I was really interested in what was going on. But some I loved more than others. And so at TimeHop, I over the course of 3 years, I was working at ScaleThrough, which is an amazing company. But I would email them product feedback. Whenever I found a bug, I was emailing them. I subscribed to something called Newsle, where you can get alerts when people in your contacts are in the news. And so I got an announcement when they had their first seed round, and I emailed them. I was congrats. And so it's just like Emily said, little natural ongoing things where it's from a professional sense, I was keeping in touch with a product or organization, staying top of mind there, and not necessarily thinking oh, I want to work there. I didn't know what was going to happen with their company. They were still really early stage. This is just one specific example. And then on a personal note, anytime one of them invited me to a party or an event or something, my other word of advice, go to everything. It can be kind of overwhelming. Your first 2 years internship, first job, you might be oh my god, I'm so busy. Just go. It's absolutely worth it. The more you show up at events where there's the same community, people are who's that girl? What's she doing here? Or I haven't seen you around. What are you? Who are you? And it really starts to pay off over time. So that was the other thing. Is I would just, anytime they would invite me to something, I'd go, and vice versa. I invited them to events at my office, and kind of built that personal relationship as well. And then another thing that Emily mentioned, even just silly tweets or responding to their tweets. Since I work at TimeHop, I see all of my tweets from 4, 5, 3 years ago to our CEO, to our other co-founder, and it's really funny to see this. First, I don't remember half things I was saying. You can see the conversation, and sometimes no response. And I'd be Jonathan, this is so embarrassing. You never responded to me. And he's oh yeah, but I remember that, And sometimes there would be a dialogue, and it's good to have the mix of sending sort of the professional, oh, this is relevant to your company, to your industry, and then more of the fun, silly stuff too. And if they know that you have that kind of fun personality, for instance, 3 years ago, our other co-founder, he was in our office, and my other job, I had dinosaur salt and pepper shakers on my desk. And I wasn't in the office, but he kidnapped them and left a note from the TimeHop mascot, the dinosaur. And he's I've taken them for ransom, and I posted an Instagram of that, and I was TimeHop, he stole my dinosaurs, and just having that kind of fun rapport back and forth. But then also making sure you're continually keeping in touch with the actual professional side too. Another thing that is really great to do, which I do with the first internship I was at and at my job now too. I'll just send like occasional updates on like what I'm up to. Like Emily said, like being like skills that I've applied in a new job, to kind of like, you know, pat their ego a little bit. It's like, or whatever the phrase is, and you know, make your previous coworkers and directors know that like, you really still think about what they taught you and you care, and they're always going to be there for you if you want like a recommendation or a referral. But yeah, I'm kind of going on a little bit of a tangent now. But
no, this is awesome.
Yeah,
This is great.
So you know, back to my long story short, which is not short. Last July, Jonathan and Benny, the Time Hop co-founders, they finally went from just a couple of people at their company running off of like, you know, a small amount of money that they made last a long time. They raised $10 million for their Series B, which Spark invested in. And, you know, Jonathan and Benny knew me from a professional, personal, like all this level. I knew I was a user, knew I was a huge ambassador of Time Hop. And I was working in client services previously, so not people operations, not recruiting necessarily. But they knew, like, you know, Jonathan came to me, he's like, look, like, I know you love the product, I know you can sell this vision, I know you love people, like, I could see you really, like, building this rollout. And I was like, what? Like, really surprised, you know? But then the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, like, the ways that I've kept in touch with them over the past few years, like, I could see why, you know, that would make sense. And I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe you see something in me that I don't even see. And so it's another one of those situations where, like, okay, it's more than just beyond, like, having, you know, you have the online reputation, but then you have, like, the actual, like, in-touch connection that you keep up. So I accepted, and I've been there for the past year, and it's been really amazing, and I think I found the type of role that I really want to be in. And and so now, you know, hearing everything Emily's saying, like being on the other side of things, seeing like millions of resumes and talking to candidates and like seeing the different ways people position themselves, I feel like I have another really great perspective on, you know, what, like we just hired for a support position, which is entry level. We were open to like any age, any type of experience. So that was one where it was really cool to see, you know, what stood out to me without, you know, maybe me thinking about it too hard. After the fact, I kind of sat down and I was like, all right, like what drew my attention? And definitely a lot of like having the personality, having a site where you have your outside projects, not just direct professional work. And coming up with like creative ways, like we got like handwritten letters in the mail, and you know, all kinds of like really it probably wasn't that much work, you know, from the candidate, but like kind of above and beyond in the sense that it was like creative, and you just have to remember that there's like thousands of people applying to some things sometimes. So I know that Emily has some questions, and hopefully that like sets it up.
Yeah.
Coming from both like the intern perspective and then also another side of the fence now.
So I think starting with the biggest question that I feel like people ask in the event sign up and that sort of thing. So now being on the other side, what are some actual examples of the type of outreach or like follow up to an application that you actually enjoy and that make people stand out in a good way? And what are some examples of things that are actually a turnoff and make you not want to continue pursuing a candidate?
Cool. Yeah, I mean, the one word answer is personalization. Really having something in your emails that shows that you've researched the company, like what just happened yesterday. Like, hey, like people, you know, emailed me after Facebook released their version of like a sort of, you know, Time Hop product, looking at old memories, and they're like, hey, like I want you to know that I read this, but this is when we're looking for a PR person. They're like, and here would be my like argument, you know, of X, Y, and Z, what I would say as a response. And I was like, whoa, it's like they're already doing the work that they're applying for. And like things like that, it's not just like, hey, how are you? It's been a month. Like, what's going on? You know, it's like, it's kind of, it doesn't, I don't really care that much. I mean, it's nice that they're checking in and being proactive, but it really stands out if you're already demonstrating that you can do part of the job, you know, beyond just your experience. So really tailoring it for the company, for like me, or, you know, if they follow me on Twitter, they'll like might mention something like, oh, you were here on vacation and I saw this, you know, which like seems kind of stalkery, but it's not, because we all know that we're all looking at each other's profiles anyway. That's what they're there for. But yeah, really standing out that way.
Okay. And then what are some like no-nos? Like during the application process, what are things where you're like, nope, whenever I see that, I trash it?
Yeah, so I mean, one thing we always do is put in like kind of like a sneaky little like question, like for our support position, we're like write 3 little example things that would be in the app or something like that. And if people just don't do it, I always say, so like really pay close attention because people will throw things in like that. Also, I mean, the like just small typos and things in resumes, which I know probably you guys don't have any problems with, and there's a difference between being like personal and giving a lot of information and being like aggressive. Like if you get a hold of someone's email address and just like constantly like every like multiple times a week, or like if I say like, hey, like sorry it's not the right fit, like going back like to I don't know, trying to prove too much, I guess. I don't know how to explain that.
No, and I like that point of, like I mentioned earlier, paying attention to the actual application and what they're asking for, because it seems like, right, a lot of companies do purposely put in little things here and there, like I want to see writing samples, or I want to see your LinkedIn profile, that sort of thing, because if you have hundreds of applications, you just need a reason to get rid of people, right. And that's an easy way to do it.
Yeah, it's true.
Awesome. Cool. Anyone have questions in the audience for Tess or myself? So I'll repeat the question. So to even generalize it a little bit further, so like what happens if you're interested in multiple roles at a company and you think your skill set could fit into one or the other? How do you approach that in terms of, do you apply for multiple roles? Do you just pick the one? How do you approach that sort of opportunity?
Cool, that's a good question. Actually, I met a girl on my floor in the office who's going through this right now. And she's like, there's 4 things at Refinery 29. And I like said this, well, maybe is what I said there too. I mean, you really want to zero in on one. But when you write your cover letter, if you get the interview with them, and you can say that, talk about the company and how much you care about the company's mission, the work they're doing, everything you've read about people there, and say like, here's where I think my skill set would match and provide the most value for you guys, but here's why I love this company so much, and I'm absolutely open to other internship possibilities, and so that they know like, okay, she's down to give us any 150% in anything because she really cares that much about the organization and the mission.
Cool.
Yeah.